Hi there and welcome back to the channel. All right, so in this video I will be talking about living in Mexico. Yes, keep it brief and to the point. Okay, so very popularly asked questions. How did I end up here in Mexico? Okay, so my nomadic lifestyle started when I was very young, but fast forward to arriving here in Mexico. So I've been living here altogether for 3 years almost. Now I'm shooting this video at the end of November. I arrived in Merida, so it's a city called Merida, Yucatan. It's in the Gulf of Mexico and it's in the southeastern part of Mexico, very close to Belize, very close to Cancun as well. And I arrived here on the 4th of December, I believe, of 2020. So yes, I arrived during the pandemic. And that was my second time actually in the country of Mexico. My first time here was in this January 4th, I believe, as well, 2018, when I was escaping the great winter of Canada. The great winter of Edmonton, Alberta, to be specific. I was escaping it. I was like a winter refugee, sort of. Yes, a winter refugee, and I had to seek refuge in Mexico. And I'm so fortunate and so thankful and so grateful that they accepted me. And yeah, so my first city in Mexico then was in Puerto Vallarta, because then, well, still till now, you can catch a direct flight from Edmonton to Puerto Vallarta. So, and I took that because I wanted to be close to the beach so bad. And yeah, that was in 2018. So I hopped around, the country. I visited quite a few cities. I went from Puerto Vallarta. I spent about 6 weeks in Puerto Vallarta. I went to Guadalajara for about a month. I loved it there. I took a 1 month Spanish class so I could actually communicate, because before that I was speaking in sign language. I wasn't even using a translator app because I felt a little bit unwise, unintelligent using translator app. So yeah, I had to take a crash course, a beginner course on Spanish in Guadalajara. Yeah, so I took a bus. I took can't remember. I took Primera, yeah, Primera Plus, I believe. So it's a long distance bus from Puerto Vallarta to Guadalajara. It was a beautiful trip. And then from Guadalajara, I flew to Mexico City. Ooh. And I was like, wow, this is a city. Oh, wow, I loved Mexico City. Up until then, that was my favorite city, hands down, in any country I've ever been to. Mexico City, because each neighborhood had like its own charm. Each neighborhood had like pretty much its own system, sort of, right? So I lived in Roma Norte, so I rented an Airbnb there. Roma Norte, I believe, and I was really close to Condensa. So I was pretty much in the, I was in the happenings pretty much. Like I was, walking distance, or you could easily take the metro, which then cost 5 pesos, and it still costs 5 pesos for, according to my knowledge, several years later, just 5 pesos. So very affordable to take the metro, and then they had all sorts of public transportation systems. So they had the metro bus, they had the regular buses, they had mini buses, and yeah, they had everything. So it was very easy to commute or to move around in the city. So I didn't even notice that the city had really bad traffic, and during rush hour it could get congested because I took the metro or the metro buses. So they have like their own special lanes, right? So the metro buses or the underground subway, pretty much the whole time I was there. So I didn't even notice that Mexico City can get congested and it can take you a long time to get from one end of the city to the other end. I was oblivious to that fact. And yeah, so I spent about a month there, and then from there I went to Acapulco. I wanted to go check it out, so I took a bus. It was about a 5 hours bus ride from Mexico City to Acapulco, Guerrero, the state of Guerrero, and just to go check it out. And after visiting Puerto Vallarta, I felt a little bit disappointed by Acapulco because Acapulco used to be Cancun back in the day, right? Used to be the Cancun. So yeah, but but it was fun being on the beach, and I stayed in Acapulco for maybe 3 weeks. Yes, I stayed there for about 3 weeks, and it was just okay. I didn't really have fun because I felt the insecurity of Acapulco, the fact that there were so many police officers, National Guard, military police, tourist police, all sorts of police forces pretty much parading the tourist zone, right? So the beach area. I just felt like, whoa, this city cannot be safe. But anyway, I had fun there in Acapulco. I enjoyed taking the Volkswagen, right? Or Volkswagen. Yeah, well, it's German. I enjoyed taking the Volkswagen. So, because in the front passenger side, right, you would have two people sit. I don't know if it's still, I mean, if it's still going on post pandemic, but I went pre pandemic. So it's like those beetles, right? That's what they call them, like bugs, right? Beetles would take six passengers. So the driver and then the two passengers, on the passenger seat, and then the three at the back. So like we're all like, oh, oh, squished in. And it reminds me of Nigeria, especially during fuel scarcity. So during fuel scarcity in the 90s. I'm pretty sure it's still going on after so many decades. People would just cramp themselves into taxis, because there weren't a lot of taxis driving. Sometimes you have people sitting on the hood of the taxi just to get around, right? So that sort of reminded me. But anyway, it wasn't due to first scarcity. It was just, that was just, the system, right? You just, cramp yourself in the video. So that would be my highlight actually of Acapulco. Just those tiny videos. It was almost like going back in time. It was almost like going back to the 90s, right? But these videos were like in great shape, and they were, a major public transportation system. And they also had buses as well. And I also enjoyed taking the buses. The buses, as I would describe them, were like moving nightclubs. They were like mobile nightclubs. So the buses were like decked out. I've never seen a public bus that decked out before. They had like large 15-inch plasma TV, like at the front, like sound systems and like music blasting like in the middle of the day. And then at night some of the buses will actually light up like inside and outside. So it's like it was like a club. I'm like, how can somebody even pay attention driving and actually driving safely while you have all this distraction going on? So I really enjoyed that. So they had two types of buses. So they had the one bus with the air conditioning that cost a little bit more in pesos, and then they had these other buses. I can't remember what they are called. I'll look them up, maybe leave them in the description box. So these other buses, a little bit cheaper, no air conditioning, but Acapulco, it's on the coast, so it doesn't get as hot. And yeah, so you could choose between two. And when I had the opportunity, I would choose the mobile nightclub because, I mean, where else are you going to get such entertainment bus system, right? And it's like a regular, just, a regular public transportation system. So I enjoyed that. So pretty much, that would be what I enjoyed about Acapulco. I also saw my very first lucha libre wrestling match. I had the best time of my life. I laughed so much because who knew wrestling could be such a comedy? I found it very entertaining. And yeah, and then afterwards, that was pretty much my tour of the Republic of Mexico. So, and then I had to fly back. So, I flew back to Toronto pretty much for a wedding. Actually, my sister's wedding then. So, this was like back in June, yes, June 2018. So, I spent about 5 months plus just touring Mexico. I went back, so I was in Toronto for about 2 months or so, and then in September, I wanted to, September was time for me to go. I was done with what I went there to do, and then I thought, okay, so where to next? I've already seen Mexico. It's okay, but it's not really calling me back. So I was like, mini, mini, manimal. Okay, let's go check out Colombia. Yeah, so this was like, yes, September 2018. And yeah, and I believe I took a direct flight. I have to check, I can't really remember. From Toronto to Cartagena, yes. Because usually, if I'm going to a new country, I usually try to find a direct flight. So it doesn't matter which city, the city might not even be my interest. I just try as much as possible to get a direct flight. So I believe I flew directly from Toronto to Cartagena, Colombia. So and then I was there. I was in Cartagena for, you know, maybe 5, 6 weeks or 2 months. Yeah, actually, I was in Cartagena for 2 months because I stayed in two Airbnbs for 1 month each. Yeah. And then I got tired of the heat. I was like, damn, this is hot. This is very hot. Even though it was in September, so September and October, but to me it was too hot, especially coming from Toronto. Even though I was there for the summer, but it's not that hot. So I thought, okay, where should we go next? So again, I toured Colombia. So I hopped around a little bit. I went to the bigger cities. I went from Cartagena. I flew to Bogota. Biggest regret, biggest mistake. And so I flew from like plus 30 degrees weather, very hot, humid, to like 8, 9, 10 degrees weather. In the daytime though, it warms up. So in the daytime, it's like 20 plus degrees, and I will wear a skirt and sandals. And the locals in the buses will be staring at me, be like, what is she wearing? Like, is she not cold? No, I wasn't cold. In the evening, yeah, it drops to maybe 10, 11, 12, sometimes maybe 8 degrees, but still, after escaping the winter of Edmonton, to me, that was nothing. But it was definitely cooler than Cartagena, where I was coming from. And yeah, I was very uncomfortable. I actually felt sick for about a week, a little bit over a week. So I couldn't really go out, couldn't explore. I was in my Airbnb buying all sorts of medication. All sorts of medication. Like I thought it was a cold, it was a flu, I had no idea. So I lost 1 week out of my 1 month stay in Bogota. So my experience in Bogota was like maybe a 5 out of a 10. Yeah, so compared to Mexico City, they don't really have like an advanced public transportation system. So you will take the bus, and then during rush hour, you will get stuck in traffic. You get stuck in traffic, and it takes forever to get everywhere. Unless you live maybe on the, what is it called? On the metro buses system, right? Trying to remember what it's called. So in Cartagena, it was called Transcaribe. So Transcaribe, it's like the metro bus. So they have their own special lane. In Bogota, I can't remember what it's called, but I would put it in the description or put it somewhere there when it when it definitely comes to me. So they're like rapid bus systems, right? With like their own special lanes. But obviously they don't go everywhere, right? So for my case, I lived really close to the airport. Obviously, no metro buses, and then I have to go to Centro. So that took pretty much a while. Sometimes I would spend over 30 minutes waiting for the bus because the bus got stuck in traffic. Got stuck in traffic. I'm just waiting there, like, oh my gosh. So yes, yeah, life in Bogota. So and then I was okay, this can be it. So where can we go next? So and then I flew to Medellin. When I got to Medellin, I was like, well, yeah, this is it. I was like, this is it. Now The same reason why I chose Merida, where I'm living in right now, is the same reason why I chose Medellin. So I usually know if a city is for me on the first day. It doesn't take me days, it doesn't take me weeks. The very first day, within a few hours, I already know this is my city. So imagine the reason why I knew, okay, this is gonna be my city, was the view coming from the airport. So Medellin is actually in a valley. So you can go uphill and then you can look down into the city. It's a valley. So I came at night, and so the bus ride from the airport to the city, I was like, whoa, this is so beautiful. This is like the most beautiful city I have ever seen, right? Because I could actually see the valley, right? So Medellin is also called Valle de Abura. So the Abura Valley, because well, it's in the valley. And it was, wow, it was really beautiful. I was like, yep. And then the temperature was, ooh, the best temperature I've ever lived in my entire life so far. It's like high 20s. In the summertime it's like low 30s, and the locals are always complaining by the fact that it's so hot. I'm like, hot, really? Have you been to Cartagena? And now living in Merida, it's like, have you lived in Merida? This is like perfect weather, y'all. So in Medellin, so most apartment buildings, people live in apartment buildings because everything is like congested. Most apartment buildings, as long as you have a window, like an external facing window. So I stayed in a lot of Airbnbs. In Medellin, I stayed in about maybe 20 Airbnbs in like my 2 years there. And I always ask the host, does this Airbnb, does it have a window? And is it facing outside or is it facing a hallway? If it's facing a hallway, meaning it's an internal window, it's gonna be hot. But I mean, it's bearable. It's okay. It's managing, but I prefer, to look outside, see nature, get some fresh air blown in. So yes. So as long as you have a window that's facing outside, you're good. You don't need a fan. You don't need air conditioning. You don't need heater. You don't need, especially if you live like in a high rise. At night, it gets, you get a lot of breeze, right? So that cools you down. So yeah, so I loved it. So my first Airbnb was okay. I stayed in Bejo. I stayed in Bejo, which is like north of Medellin. Then I didn't even know, because I mean I was still new in the city. I had no idea where I was until my Airbnb host, like she had her own business, and so she told me, okay, so her business, it's like, north of Medellin. It said this. I was like, wait, but it's like south of Medellin. It's south of here. She was like, no, it's, and then she was like, okay, actually, Bejo, it's a different municipality, right? I had no idea. So yeah, because then I would take the metro, like the train system from her place, which was a walking distance to the metro, and then I'll take the metro to Medellin. I had no idea I was going from one municipality to the other municipality after like 3 weeks of living there. I thought they were all the same, like just one city. But yeah, and then afterwards, I moved to another Airbnb in a neighborhood called Laureles. And that was when I knew, yeah, I think this is it for me. I think this is my final bus stop. I thought, okay, this is my final bus stop. Like, what is this? Oh, I loved living in Laureles. So I stayed mostly in Laureles or neighborhoods around it. Sometimes I will move out, outside of the vicinity. Sometimes I'll move to the colonias, the barrios, in Centro. It depends on where I can get a 1 month Airbnb affordable, or at least that's also in my budget. That's also in my preferences in terms of what I was looking for. But most times I stayed in and around the Laureles neighborhood. And the reason for that is because it's a flat zone. So I mentioned that Medellin, it's a valley. So some people live like at the very bottom, like the flat surface of the valley. Some people live like on a mountain, like the valley aspect, like the mountainous area. So the very slopey areas. And girl, my calves, even though my calves are like very strong, I'm like, I'm not hiking every single day to go home and come back or to go anywhere. I'm not hiking. I'm walking like a normal person. not living like in these steepy neighborhoods. So Poblado is like that. Poblado, it's a very touristic zone. I mean, it has a lot of hills and slopes, and I'm like, nope, we are staying here. Yeah, so I stay in and around, and also it's very local. So I mean, it's very rare to see tourists or foreigners. You will see them obviously because it's, it has its own amenities. So the clubs and bars and such in that area, and of course the estadio is in the Laureles neighborhood. So, but it's still very much local. But it's like also elite as well. So depending on what part of Laureles, what building you're living in, things could go up there. But I just love the fact that they had the panaderias, the coffee shops, the restaurants, and just nice places, right, to go to and to work out of if you are into working from a coffee shop. I prefer working from home because I can control the noise level, and also it's not as distracting. All right, so and then yeah, fast forward 2 years later, the pandemic came, and then lockdown, and then airports were closed. But I stayed put in Medellin because, like I said, yeah, at that time I thought Medellin was like the best thing ever after Mexico City, at least. So I stayed put. I was like, there's no way I'm going back to Edmonton. Never, never. So I stayed. I stayed in Medellin. I mean, why not? Affordable living, good weather, good food, good people. Why not? So yeah, so I stayed. And then eventually when they opened up airports, right? Now let me tell you how much I love living in Medellin. I loved living in Medellin so much, I overstayed my welcome. I overstayed my welcome, yeah. Some of you might be thinking, but, oh, that's illegal. It's not illegal, no, in Colombia, no. Well, at least as of that time, it wasn't illegal to overstay. As a matter of fact, before I overstayed, I went to go speak to one of the customs agents at the like the immigration office, and the guy was like, no, it's not a big deal. It just, you're just gonna have to pay every single month that you overstay, and it's gonna be about four. So the first month it's $100, right? And then afterwards, it's about 40,000 pesos. 40,000 pesos then, with the exchange rate, it was about $10 a month, right? $10 a month versus having to fly out of the country, go get another Airbnb for 6 months. Like, obviously was a no-brainer to just overstay. So I was like, okay, yeah, I'll just overstay, and then when it's time for me to leave, I'll just pay the fee and then leave. So that was pretty much what I did, sort of. So it in September, when they opened up airports, publicly, I flew out of Medellin because then I couldn't wait to escape. I couldn't wait to escape Medellin, even though, I mean, I had enjoyed living there, but after the whole lockdown situation, even though it wasn't as bad in Medellin, I could still go out grocery shopping. Of course, nice weather. It was really quiet and such. I changed my Airbnbs. I got my own place, high rise, good view, beautiful view. You could see the north versus the south. You could see the nice place, the nice neighborhoods versus the barrios. You could see sort of the contrast, especially at night with the street lights. It was like you could see major buildings in the city pretty much from my floor, which was on the 11th floor, I believe, right? So it was good. It was good. I loved it. I enjoyed it. But after a while, I just wanted to change my environment. I wanted to, just leave for a while, for a few weeks or a few months, and then come back. Did I go back? Did I go back? No, I didn't go back. I didn't go back to Medellin. I didn't go back to Medellin. Instead, I came to Merida, Mexico. Well, I came to Merida, Mexico. Yes. I should probably split this video up into two parts. Alright y'all, so what I'm gonna do is I will split this video up into two parts because it's a little bit long. Yes, it's a little bit long. It's my first time actually telling my story about how I ended up in Merida, Yucatan. And I didn't even know that I had such a story to tell. So I will split this up into two parts. So I'll see you guys in part 2 of this video. Ciao.